Hey everyone, it's DFA and welcome to another World of Warships Blitz video, and today is going to be a really good one. It's going to be a guide on how to play aircraft carriers in the game. Alright, rule number 1, know the AA values of the reds. So here, for example, we do have a couple of ships on the enemy team, 4 battleships, only one of them has good AA, the Montana, the other ones are quite doable. So we're going to try to focus them as much as we can, and we're going to try avoiding the Montana. Even if it's a bot, the AA is still the same. That's probably the only thing that's functioning with bots, that's their AA values. So that will determine our strategy for the game. There is also only one DD, so that will make our life much easier. And the gameplay starts with rule number 2. You want to clear the skies before sending all your planes at once. So I immediately send my fighters, and only my fighters. I do not send the bombers, and I noticed that he sent his bombers to the left, the fighters to the right, so I'm going to focus on the threat for my fleet, which are the bombers. I'm able to intercept them and to follow them, and that's what you should be doing in your fighters. You should be following the trajectory of the enemy squadrons until these fighters catch me, and then I will do something else which is called baiting fighters. That takes us to rule number 3. Once you see that the enemy squadron is following yours, like this, you call your fighters back, and it means the enemy fighters are locked onto your squadron, and you put the waypoint, the point where you call them back, a little bit behind your ship, and you make sure that the fight happens right on top of your AA guns. Now that the fighters are clear, I can do whatever I want with my bombers, and that's what I'm going to do. And that takes us to rule number 4, where you pick the closest, most dangerous but also most isolated target on the battlefield. In that case, that is going to be that poor French battleship, which is engaging our ships, which is quite close. It is completely isolated, so it cannot defend itself very well against AA. You see that my team is calling me to attack some kind of destroyer on the right part of the screen. I am not going to do that. For 2 reasons. The first one, it's quite far away from me, and the second one, that destroyer is already in a world of pain. He's surrounded by one of my destroyers and a cruiser, so if I was that destroyer I would be running away right now. So it's absolutely not dangerous, but the Alsace was, and he was completely alone, and he's going to pay the price immediately. He's going to be the first kill of the game. And that takes us to rule number 5 actually. So it's important to understand that you should not be attacking destroyers immediately. Or just because it's a destroyer, but it is your responsibility to keep them spotted. Here I do not have to do it, because there's only one first, and we know where he is. He's surrounded by a cruiser and a destroyer, so he cannot do anything to us. But if there were 2 or 3 destroyers on the enemy team, it would be my responsibility as a CV, and I would be using fighters for that, to keep them spotted at all times, to make sure that they do not try to flank our team on the left, on the right, that they do not get too close to our battleships. And basically, if you keep a destroyer spotted, it's going to be much more careful, because he thinks about getting close to one of your ships to attack him. So that's your responsibility as a CV, not destroying destroyers systematically, but keeping them spotted at least. So the game continues, and we're still trolling the enemy torpedo bombers, and that's going to take us to rule number 6, when we pick our next isolated target. It's about mastering fire and flooding mechanics. You notice that I could have sent my dive bombers and my torpedo bombers immediately to attack that gross circus, but I do not. I'm waiting until there's going to be around 15 to 20 seconds before my bombers reach the target, and the reason is simple. I've put the curve first on fire. He's used his damage control kit. If I flood him now, he cannot do anything. His damage control kit is on a cooldown, and that's what's going to happen. So you see that I'm going to redirect my bombers to hit him with all my torpedoes. He's gonna get flooded, and that's going to give me another 10k damage. And I'm going to send the other dive bombers right away, because now he basically cannot defend itself against fire and flooding damage. And that's how you're expected to get, I would say, around between 25 and 40% of your damage as a CV, fire and flooding mechanics, especially that's critical with American CVs. So you see that the dive bombers are onto him, and they put him on fire as well, so I get double damage, fire and flooding.
Dive bomber squadron, take off. Fighter squadron, flying out.
So the sweet sound of an immediate collision between me and the rock takes us to rule number 7, which I have called mid-range positioning, and it's about positioning your CV at the right place on the battlefield. If you look at my positioning right now, since the beginning of the game. I've always been quite close to my battleships, but I was never on the front line, so I did not camp base, which is what unfortunately many CV players do. But I also did not shy away from moving forward. I just kept myself just behind that rock, moving forwards and backwards, to make sure that I remained invisible to the enemy team. And now that the team is more or less clear and it's more or less safe, I'm going to move forward. So here I'm again ideally positioned to be taking on that Grosser Kurfürst on the left, again mastering fire and flooding mechanics as I've just shown you, but to also attack the CVs and the cruiser that are remaining on the enemy team right in front of me. And I'm going to stay there for some time, and I'm just going to move away from that rock in a couple of minutes, and basically until that Grosser Kurfürst is gone and is not a threat anymore to my base. And talking about positioning, so it's going to take my my friendly battleship down in a couple of seconds, so I'm going to move away from him. I'm going to go to the other side of the rock and to move forward towards the enemy cap to support the rest of my team, because you should be supporting your team, so that Kurfürst is not a threat anymore. He's going to go down quite soon. I'm probably going to set him on fire right now, and that will be the end of him. But the rest of the enemy team is still a threat, and I'm going to position myself in a way where I can support them.
Dive bomber squadron, take
And by the way, a little bit of advice here. Once you see that a ship is not positioned ideally for the torpedo bombers, it's best to call them back and to set them back again than just having them toy around the enemy ships, trying to find a different direction for your torpedoes.
Fighter squadron, airborne. Dive bomber squadron.
And we get our second kill of the game, and that's allowing me to highlight the latest rule of this guide, which is using your hit points. As a CV, you're expected to be positioned not too close, not too far away from the battle, but once it's safe for you to move in, do so. You still have the same amount of hit points and the same amount of DPM as most of the ships in your class, 40,000 here for the Midway. So use them. I took a couple of shots just so I could get closer to the action to maximize my DPM, and that's what I did, finishing the game with 102,000 damage. So that's it, end of the game, end of the guide, MVP, big caliber, clear skies. So that's those are the 3 medals we were looking for. Unfortunately, we missed the Widerer medal because we only got 37 fire and flooding damage, but still that's very, very good gameplay with the Midway, and I hope that it was also a really good guide, that you've learned a couple of interesting things for you. So I'm going to put a recap of all the rules now, thanks to the magic of video editing. So as always guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more content. If you want more content like that, just let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. That was DeathFromAbove signing out.